1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. The pen is mightier than the sword. You've heard that before, right?
Oh, yeah.
The name Marjorie Harris Carr is a name that you probably all know. You know it as the Marjorie Harris Carr Cross Florida Greenway, the big path of land that goes from the Gulf of Mexico over to the Atlantic Ocean. That is a nice trail. It's a nice place if you have horses to walk your horses or whatever you do, okay?
Yep.
That would have been a canal. But a lady by the name of Marjorie Harris Carr used her words, writing and spoken words, to educate the rest of us that would be a horrible idea to dig a trench, basically a canal, across the peninsula of Florida, because what it would do, it would tear up the structure that confines the aquifer, the underground river of water that we all get our drinking water from, and it would have been brought in the salt water from both the Gulf and the Atlantic, and it would have completely ruined the aquifer. Okay? Now, everything I just said was her opinion. Everything I just said was backed up by science, and yet everything I just said was also debated against by people who saw an economic benefit from building that canal, right? Does that sound familiar? That sounds like a lot of things in our world, right?
It does.
A lot of things in our world, and thank God, we have somebody like Marjorie Harris Carr. Now, she's no longer with us. She died in 1997. I had to do a quick Wikipedia search to find that out. I mean, I knew she passed. I just didn't know when. But anyway, that's why we know her name, is because she stood up, and she should be regarded as a hero for the state of Florida because of what she's done. Ellen Moyer is a name you should also know. When you read her book, Our Earth, Our Species, Our Selves, you realize that she's also standing up to many things that could be a problem for our health, not just our physical health, but especially our physical health, but even our social health. This is a very fascinating work. She's on the phone. She's been with us before, and I loved the conversation before. It's been about a year, right, Robin?
Yes,
you tell me. Ellen Moyer is an independent environmental consultant. She's a registered professional engineer with 30 years of experience preventing and cleaning up environmental problems. Very talented journalist and a regular contributor to the Huffington Post. And what an honor to have her back on our show again. Ellen Moyer, what an honor. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning, Larry and Robin. It's so great to be back on your show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Where are you right now?
Well, today I'm at the Pine Barrens Conservation Forum at the Cape Cod Community College. And Pine Barrens are an eco-region characterized by sandy soil, shallow groundwater, and specific vegetation. It reminds me of Florida and what you were just talking about, actually. And this eco-region is in parts of New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Long Island. So this group today figured that instead of dwelling on the inauguration, they would get together and work on stepping up conservation efforts here near the Cape Cod area.
Well, we are a nation that has to thank the folks like yourself who have the intelligence, the background to look at something and raise a red flag if it's necessary. The lady I was just talking about, by the way, is from Massachusetts. I don't know her whole history.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, she's from Boston. I'm looking at it right here. Mm-hmm. So your book, Our Earth, Our Species, Our Selves. Your mom actually gave you the conception moment. The idea for this book came from a conversation with your mother, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was sitting at the kitchen table with her, bemoaning the fact that things are kind of spiraling down fast, and I said, I think we need another environmental movement, like in the 60s and 70s. And she said, well, what would it take to have one? she's incredibly practical, And I said it would probably take another book like Silent Spring to really get that going. And she said, well, why don't you write it?
Yeah.
So I did.
Okay, but when somebody like yourself creates this kind of book, and then you have the people who can make money from the rest of us not paying attention to what you've pointed out, okay? They try to convince us that they're right, and we're reading your facts and we're saying, well, wait a minute, maybe Ellen is right. So, wouldn't it? I mean, it only makes common sense to me to say this. Okay, those folks, they've got an interest in making a living, making money, and whatever. It seems to me that there's a way to coexist, making money and keeping the earth, healthy, right?
That is exactly right, and that's one of the main points of my book, actually, is that we have this false misconception that kind of cropped up where we think we can either have a healthy environment or a healthy economy.
Right.
We assume we have to trash the environment in order to make money and have a thriving economy, but actually it's the other way around. And we need a healthy environment in order to have a healthy economy. Senator Gaylord Nelson, the guy who started Earth Day back in 1970, he's famous for saying that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. And we can see this today, when we spend massive amounts of money dealing with severe weather. That is unproductive use of money. For example, Hurricane Sandy, 1 foot of the storm surge, which was something like 12 feet, 1 foot of that was from climate change and sea level rise. And that extra 1 foot of storm surge came with a big cost to it. And, more people had their homes damaged or destroyed and had to deal with emergency response and, all kinds of bad consequences. That's an example of where we're spending money on things that would be better spent, or money could be better spent on education, creating housing for people, healthier food. So that's an example of where it hurts the economy when you hurt the environment.
Well, how was the money spent poorly? Let's drill down a little bit into what you just said right there so that I understand it. What was it spent on that it shouldn't have been spent on?
Well, we had to pump out the subway systems in New York City and repair the damaged utilities and repair the damaged homes, things like that. So I suppose there was a short-term burst of activity for the people who were doing mop-up detail, but that money, if it had been spent on education, for example, would have created much more good than spending it on damage control.
Well, the message we get, I guess is the best way to say this, is that the Earth is warming up and we, human beings, are responsible for it. In your opinion, is it completely us or is part of it nature?
Pretty much completely us. Carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere are about twice as high as they've ever been in at least 800,000 years. So if you look at the 800,000-year record, which they've put together from ice cores and other data, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But then in the last couple hundred years, it shoots up dramatically to levels never seen. So it's definitely human-induced, and it's a myth to think that it is natural. There's probably, there might be a tiny component that's natural because there is this underlying fluctuation over time. But in a sense, it doesn't even matter because the carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere are certainly having bad consequences, and we have to do what we can about that.
And I am not qualified in any way to argue with you, and I want to have this conversation based on that. In other words, I don't want to start having phone calls coming in trying to debate you on that. We don't have enough time for that. I would rather take that and just let's run with that, because let's take that as the what we're working with. What do we do? What do we do so that we can turn that around? Because we hear messages all the time about electric cars. We hear messages all the time about solar panels. Is that the right thing we should be doing?
Well, there's no one answer to what we need to do. There's a whole array of things we need to do, both individually and as a society. So in my new book, I list out specific practical actions that will actually make a difference, that are doable and even enjoyable.
Yes.
So
that's where I wanted you to go. So let's take the break first, and then on the other side of the break, because that's what I want to do. I want to have my pen and my paper ready. I want to say, what can I do that I'm not already doing? Me as an individual, because I can't do much more than what I can do. You know? Mm-hmm. So, all right, so let's take a break. Ellen Moyer, you always deliver a powerful message, and I can see why the colleges are having you speak. Let's take a little break real quickly, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Friday, a partly sunny, warm day with a high of 80 to 84. Partly cloudy and mild Friday night, low 58 to 62. Partly sunny and very warm for Saturday, high 80 to 84. For Sunday, mostly cloudy, breezy and warm with some strong thunderstorms likely in the afternoon, the high 77 to 81. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
There are only a few things in life that you can be certain will always be around: death, taxes, the pursuit of happiness, and computers. As they continue to advance at an epic pace, the one absolute certainty about them is that they'll break. It's not an if, it's a when. And when it happens, bring it to the only company in Ocala that's certified in Apple and Microsoft, Ocala Mac and PC Repair. They even offer on-site computer repair service, so they come to you. And if you do drop it off, you can check your repair status online. Ocala Mac and PC Repair is a family-owned and operated company that can do everything from mobile repair to wireless networks, fixing viruses, data recovery, even building and installing new systems. Visit online at ocalamacpc.com. In person, 1713 East Silver Springs Boulevard, or give them a call, 352-566-8324. That's 352-566-8324. Ocala Mac and PC Repair.
Central Florida Eye Institute is the area's leader in laser vision correction. From high-definition refraction surgery and LASIK vision correction to custom cataract, glaucoma, and diabetic treatment, you can count on Dr. Crowley and his effective, friendly staff to provide you with the quality care you deserve. Call 352-237-8400 for an appointment or more information. That number again is 352-237-8400. Looking forward to service your vision needs.
If you or a loved one is suffering with knee, shoulder, neck or back pain, plantar fasciitis, peripheral neuropathy, and even tennis elbow, and would like to learn about how there are treatments that may benefit you, go to drjuanyordan.com, then listen in on the first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. and hear from health professionals doing these treatments and patients who have benefited from them. First and third Thursdays, 10 a.m. Next Generation MD, right here on The Source.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Ellen Moyer is on the phone up in, did you say Cape Cod? Are you in Cape Cod?
Yes. Well, yeah, Cape Cod Community College is where I'm at.
So, real quick, I want to tell you something. We have here, and I mentioned this in the opening, we have this wonderful aquifer that our water flows through. We have these wonderful springs, and the water levels have dropped on them. The water quality in them, not the aquifer, but the rivers, have gone down. I think they've gotten a little bit better in the last couple of years. But Robert and I we noticed that when the lakes were drying up and we had water bottling companies sucking water out of the aquifer, we noticed that every time we said that that's probably the reason, we had a fierce kickback from the people who supported the water bottling plant saying, no, that's not it. We're only pulling out 16 million gallons of water a day.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how is it possible that you're blaming everything but the obvious, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's that's how I look at what you're talking about. During the break, you were concerned about the conservative versus liberal slant of the station, or perhaps of this show. And I
was just curious. I wasn't concerned.
No, but I think you were concerned, and I think you have a right to be concerned because you have to be prepared for perhaps me, if I'm the host, coming back at you with stuff that is going to be antagonistic toward what you're trying to say. But just to put you at ease, and another background to Robert and I, way before we did radio, we did children's music, and one of the songs was called Forests Green. And the song says, all I want is a world to pass on to the children, green as the world passed on to me. And it goes on from there. And so, gosh, I understand the whole. I don't understand the anti-environmentalist position. I don't understand that. Who doesn't want clean air? Who doesn't want clean water? So that's the direction I come from. I'm not smart enough to tell you about global warming and whether we caused it or not. But I do know that the air is dirty around Los Angeles because I see it from the airplane. Mm-hmm. I see it. You can see it. Just go to Tampa. You don't have to go to L.A. Go to Tampa. You'll see it, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a liberal versus conservative issue. My uncle had a crew cut. He used to work for the CIA. He lived in Florida, and you would think he was just, far right, but he wrote a column, an environmental column for his local newspaper because he was completely fired up about environmental issues. So we need to depolarize this whole issue. It has somehow become conservative versus liberal, and it makes absolutely no sense because we all love our children. We all want to leave a good place for them. So,
and Ellen, may I say that your book, Our Earth, Our Species, Our Selves, which is the primary reason you're on today, your book does a wonderful job giving. Hey, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Use a cliche, right? If somebody reads the book and they don't get it, then what are you going to do? You can't do anything about it, But if you read the book, after 30 years of experience in this field, Alan, we trust that you're giving us good information.
I hope I am, and we can't really do anything about other people. All we can really do anything about is our own actions. So there are always going to be people out there who don't want to do something. They might have issues of, that they're grappling with that distract them or whatever. So, I think we just leave that be and then do what we can.
You were going to mention what I can do. What can I do?
Mm-hmm. Yes. One of my chapters is all about specific things that people can do. So here's one area that we all engage in every single day, and that's eating food. And one thing we can do that helps the environment is to eat organically grown food. And the reason for that is that organically grown food does not contain applied synthetic pesticides. So when we eat organic, we are reducing the amount of pesticides that go out into the environment, into the air, water, soil, and other organisms. And we also help ourselves by reducing our exposure to pesticides.
Makes sense.
But another important thing that most people don't know about is that organically grown food is better for the climate than industrial production. So greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon dioxide, are about half as much for organically grown food as conventional food.
Well, and I can see how that applies here, too, because an organically managed farm here in our county wouldn't have nitrates dripping into the aquifer.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't kill our rivers and streams and all the wildlife in them. So there are just many, many benefits, and our health is better. So our health care costs go down. Another thing we can do is reduce the amount of food we waste, and everybody can do that. It's astonishing that in the United States we waste. Or we throw out 40% of the food we grow. And that's all the way from the farm field to the family kitchen or restaurant. And in fact, American families throw out about a quarter of all the food and beverages they buy to the tune of about $150 per month.
Wow.
And all that food production comes with an environmental cost to produce it, transport it, etc. So if we can reduce our food waste, we help the environment, and we save money, and we could use that money for something cool, like a vacation or college education or something else. So there's another example of a win-win situation.
And we also have to advocate for native species, not just native plant species, but native animal species as well. In Florida, we have wonderful native species, but then people who are transplanted, they introduce other plant species and other animals into our state, and that really causes a problem as well.
Oh, it's a huge problem, especially those big snakes. I forget what kind of snakes, but yeah, that's a huge problem worldwide, transporting wildlife and plants from one place to another.
Yeah.
So we just talked about a couple things about food. Do you want some more?
Yes, sir. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are you okay with me calling you ma'am? Is that okay?
Oh, that would be better than sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We all know to get rid of our incandescent light bulbs and put in energy-efficient ones. But that's not enough. That's like a prerequisite. Everybody needs to do that. But another thing we can do is to reduce the amount of electricity that is used by appliances that are turned off. This is called Dracula Load, and it can be up to 10-11% of your energy use can be energy used by televisions, stereos, all kinds of things when they're turned off. So if we can, well, first of all, we need to tell manufacturers to fix that problem. But in the meantime...
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we can plug some of these things into power strips that cut off the Dracula load and just turn the on and off switch on the power strip instead of on the appliance. So there's another case where we're not sacrificing anything. Who cares if the thing is turned off? Right. We don't care if it uses electricity or not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do that exact thing.
Yeah.
I turn that off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you about the light bulbs?
And we save money. So there's another case. So go ahead.
I have a question about the light bulbs. I thought we had a law passed so that we can't even, even if we wanted to, we couldn't buy anything except for the more energy efficient light bulbs. I thought that was the way it is.
I believe that's the case. I'm sure people who sell them anyway, and I think you're right that's a programmatic thing that's going on, and that's an example of a collective action. So our individual actions aren't enough. We also need these institutional policies that say, hey, you can't even have those things, period. So our situation is dire, so we need to do individual and collective things.
Ellen, thank you for being on the air with us. I wanted to tell you this, that first of all, for the listeners, the book is called Our Earth, Our Species, Our Selves. Ellen Moyer wrote the book, How to Thrive While Creating a Sustainable World. Really good information, really the culmination. You know how people say, I took 10 years to write the book or whatever? Ellen took 30 years to write this book.
Yeah.
I mean, not literally sitting down from first word to last word, but that 30 years of experience is behind this and studying. So
I'll tell you something. Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I actually drew the cover art for the book in the year 2000, and I actually made notes that I ran into about a year ago. I made notes in the year 2000 that I wanted to write a book with these topics, and I just stumbled across it. I said, wow, I didn't know I wanted to do this. So it has actually been percolating for like 16 years, 17 years.
That's awesome. Well, I was trying to just express to the audience that this wasn't a whim on your part. I mean, you've been studying this topic all of your life. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I please don't let politics get in the way. Not to you, Ellen, but for the listeners. Yeah. This is not a political issue. This is your children, your children's children, the planet you live on, and just let all that political nonsense not even interfere with this. Otherwise, going back to my opening lady, Marjorie Harris Carr, if she hadn't stepped up to the plate, we let politics get in the way, we would have no drinking water. We'd have to pump it down from Georgia. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. Can I just shout out my website that people can
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. It's ellenmoyerphd.com, and that's ELLENMOYERPHD.com. You can check out my book, my Huffington Post articles. You can sign up for my free environmental petition signing service. You can read and hear some cool resources or contact me through the website.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Larry and Robin.
All right, we will take a break and be right back. Let's join the news. This is WOCA Ocala.
And notorious drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman due in a New York court this afternoon.
He's arrived in New York last night via private jet to face charges, including drug trafficking, several other federal offenses. He was extradited at the request of the U.S. government after being recaptured in Mexico just a year ago.
Cheryl Cazzoni with the Fox Business Network. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. See website for details.
Need some extra cash today? Do you have bad credit or maxed out credit cards? If so, turn your radio up. 35cash.com is one of the nation's largest personal loan networks with over 50 different lenders. Now you can get a personal loan for up to $5,000 with any type of credit discreetly from your computer or smartphone and with no paperwork to send in. That's right, no paperwork whatsoever. Your